Tevez da solo, Tevez al limite dell'area, li fa fuori tutti, Tevez, si apre la porta, Tevez, gol, da dietro, Pirlo dentro,
Buongiorno Bianconeri, welcome back to the All Juve Cast channel. All right, we are going to discuss, of course, the aftermath of the 3-3 draw with Atalanta. And as usual, and as per during Juventus matches, fans' opinions are all over the map. We're going to tackle it all, and that comes down to the very performance, and it comes down to some of our players, and we're going to tackle all of it. I got Omer that's going to rock this show with me. How are you doing, my man?
All good. A bit disappointed, but all good.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get to all that. We're gonna address everybody in the live chat that's already here. Just want to get some housekeeping out of the way. If you're tuning into this on your audio outlets, head over to the YouTube channel and subscribe to the channel. All right, that's where you get all the extras. And as announced later on this week, on Friday, we are gonna have Romeo Agresti with us live. Okay, and that's going to be an opportunity for all of you to get your questions in directly to Romeo. All right, now the other thing is follow us on Twitter. These guys do a great job, Omar and Lou especially, on the news, keeping you up to date on everything. Okay, so make sure you head over to our Twitter and follow us there. Now, shall we get into this match, Omar?
Let's go.
Let's get into it. So we're going to tackle some of the news first before we get right into that one. Okay, a little bit of news rocking this morning. We'll say what's up to everybody. Jeremiah saying, hey guys, Juve is the face of Serie A. No prestige without Juve. We will prevail in the face of injustice. Just want to start off the live with a strong statement. There you go. Bob Yogasel, ciao, AJC, yes, Forza Juve, always. Thanks for today's gathering, absolutely. CJ saying the stadium looked half empty, but the crowd was loud coming through the TV. Really need the new management to bring back flags and drums and just the general atmosphere, all right? Buongiorno a tutti from Joe Cappuccino, Michael Razzo, Forza Juve. Missed the other videos yesterday because he was fishing. I hope the fishing was good, my friend. We played decent, but our stadium atmosphere needs huge work now. All right, well, let's get into it. So news, not a whole lot breaking out today. There's more rumblings going on with the investigation and everything. We are going to talk a little bit about we don't usually bring up the other teams managers' words and everything like that, but what Gasparini said kind of echoed what I have been saying over the past few days, so we're going to tackle that towards the end of the match recap. All right, but the news, yeah, it's just a lot more of rumors of potential further penalties and everything like that. But you do have some advocates for Juventus, and you do have some lawyers that are coming out. A sports lawyer of 40 plus years coming out saying he's never seen anything like it, and just how fast it kind of turned and went down. And one going as far to say it was almost like an execution summary. With no pushback allowed or fight back. So again, these rumblings are going to continue on. What I don't like is how long they plan on letting this thing go before you actually start getting the final answers. Now, apparently, the reason that Juventus was hit with this 15-point penalty is going to be coming out before January 30th now. So we wait to see what these details are. All right. But again, we wait and see. McKennie. Arsenal apparently potentially going to try to make an offer for Weston McKennie. McKennie, it's been all right in that right wing back position. I think it must be said. Omer.
Yeah, I was positively impressed with him. On one hand, I was impressed. On the other hand, we conceded more goals in the past two games than we did all season in the league. But I felt like he was good, like he adapted pretty quickly. He offers something that was kind of missing there, so at times, not all game long, but it's kind of overshadowed by the amount of goals we conceded. Nevertheless, he was fine.
Yeah. So Arsenal comes in. Let's say they come in, they make an offer. Quadrado did get some minutes in this one. on his return. We will talk about that as we get to the match recap and everything. But an offer comes in, let's say 30 million. Do you move McKennie this window, Omer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
30 million, come on. The first rumor was 25, but that was the same price for Kiwior, which they bought from Spezia. And he still has some experience, World Cup experience, Champions League experience. He's not that young. He's close to his prime. I believe he's worth more. 30 should be fine.
Yeah. I think, again, it's a makeshift position where he has been better than at his regular position for us. And it's not enough to stop the sale, in my opinion. Quadrado, when he came back on, though, was so frustrating. So frustrating yesterday. We get into that. Outside of that, really on the news front, rather quiet, everybody. On this one. Other good positives for Monza, which is going to be this upcoming Sunday. Pogba and Vlahovic should be on that squad list. All right. Whether they start or not, we'll have to wait further on in the week, but they come back, and I fail to believe that there won't be a major impact. We could take a lot of positives, even out of a draw that felt a little nasty for us yesterday. That draw felt a little nasty, especially that 10 minutes at the start of the second half that Juve just came out of the tunnel absolutely flat. And some crucial errors that cost us. Actually, all of the goals we allowed were critical errors on our part. And Atalanta punished us. But overall, I thought Juve actually played a good game. If you look at our midfield and what's going on in there, especially Fagioli had an incredible match. I fail to believe that Pogba doesn't land way more of the passes we were missing yesterday when our guys were making runs, were stretching Atalanta at the back and trying to take advantage of the counters. Man, Pogba, his passing and his range is going to be extremely welcomed. And there was missed passes all over the place yesterday. They could not get the weight right when they tried to hurt Atalanta, and those opportunities were aplenty. But overall, I was actually pleased with the game we played. YFG has an interesting comment here, which we are going to get to at the end of our match, but I just want to let you know, YFG, I see you, and we are going to talk about this. YFG says yesterday he realized something, and that's that Juve fans can't be pleased, and they're ungrateful. He continues, we played attacking ball yesterday, and people were mad because we didn't win. But when we play ugly ball and win, they shit on Allegri and the team for the ugly ball. It's mad. We are definitely going to tackle that one, my friend. And, well, Omer, what do you think? Should we just get into it now or wait until post-match?
No, we can go into it.
Okay,
No
well, let's get into it. How do you agree? Do you disagree with his statement there?
Yeah, it's kind of obvious. Like, it's basic human nature. Every time you fall, there's those people who will help you up, and people will tell you, "See, I told you to tie your shoes," and that's kind of where it balances out. Some people just like pointing out the mistakes that led to a certain situation, and others wanna help get out of the situation and support, and that transpires into football, into every element of life. So it's just human nature. It's nothing weird. It's always been like that, and it's like that for every football team in the world. Like, I usually get into some other Twitter conversations with other fans. It's exactly the same. Some will hype whoever they like and what they think is right, and others will just say what they think is right, which is the opposite. So conversation is almost non-existent. It's basically just people spewing out what they think is right, and it happens everywhere. It's nothing special to Juve, but frustrating, just like any other time it happens.
Yeah, it's all about the person's perception and their personal opinion and how they see things and suiting their narrative, right? I try to do my best, especially here through the channel and whatnot, to try and remain open to all angles and all possibilities and whatnot, despite my personal feelings and whatnot. And I've tried to do that the most with Max Allegri. And because I'm not a fan of that style of football. I would like to see something a little bit more attack minded and oriented and whatnot. But I've always, as of late, especially, I've said what he's had to go through this second season is crazy. And the fact that we've turned things around quite a bit already, and now we have another gut punch to try and deal with. It's a lot to take on. And I'm not so sure that any of these other high price big managers or whatever deal with it, to be honest. We hear excuses from a lot of top managers out there for a hell of a lot less. And here is this guy taking every single punch in stride and moving on. So I think if there's something, to give Max some credit for, is that he's kind of done with the excuses. And at the start of the year, I was a little frustrated with him continuously talking about the injuries when we're getting outplayed by the likes of, Monza and Sampdoria that's pretty weak this season and everything. I was getting frustrated and I didn't want to hear about the injuries because I don't believe you need those key guys based on our roster to play better against those teams. We're not even talking about getting results. It's just simply playing good ball. So that frustrated me. But now, in the face of all this, and there has been almost this shift in Max. Would you agree, Omer, in him starting to take on a little bit more accountability and kind of moving forward?
Yeah, I think he had like a different team in the past in his first tenure, and he thought like addressing everything the same way because he did have a lot of guys who took responsibility on themselves, so we didn't have to do it for them. And now he has this team of youngsters who don't know how to do it already, and at some certain point in the season, he figured it out that he needs to act a bit differently towards the team and while talking to the press and stuff. And that's what we're seeing now, which is evolving and learning. So you can't fault him for that.
Yeah. Now I see you guys in the chat. Okay. We're gonna get to all this. I see the discussions about Danilo. I see Miretti, Fagioli, Locatelli. We're gonna get to all of that. Okay. We're just gonna quickly run through the actual match, some of the highlights and talking points, and then we'll get into all these players things. Okay. And Michael Razzo asking about the refs and some of the calls. Let's we'll talk about it. We'll definitely talk about these opportunities. Okay, so the starting lineup we get is pretty much as anticipated. Okay, you've got Szczesny, Danilo, Bremer, Sandro, McKennie, Fagioli, Locatelli, Rabiot, Kostic, Di Maria, and Keane. Okay, sorry, Milik, not Keane. So as anticipated, that starting lineup. We talked about it, actually. I actually had no problem with it. McKennie's been serviceable as right wing back. Funny enough, better than when he's in as his regular central midfield position. And I talked a bit about it, and I think it's just maybe because it's much more straightforward from a role perspective and duties. And that's probably why he doesn't find himself lost positionally like he does in the central midfield spot. And one of the things I noticed, if you look at this game, with Fagioli in there as opposed to when McKennie plays on that right side with our flanks there. Fagioli knows when. That's the big difference. Fagioli knew when he was supposed to stay and offer that pivot pass and when it was time to go. And that was the big difference that I noticed. It's just simple timing. McKennie, if you watch him and you go back and you watch those games, the second that player gets the ball, he's gone and he bombs up there, but he's not even paying attention to what our striker's doing and what space that player is starting to occupy and starting to take. Fagioli's different. His head is always on a swivel. He always is looking. And that's the biggest difference that I notice. And that's
But we
why,
gotta say, I said at halftime that the right side is working perfectly, but there's another reason for it. Di Maria is a very quick thinker and reader of the game, and when he dictates the play, as opposed, let's say, what we had in the past few years, which is Quadrado, who takes hours to think what he wants to do. So Di Maria was kind of the catalyst, and they circled around him according to what he did. But he did mostly the right things and knew which avenue to take the team, which is something we were lacking maybe since Dybala was in form and played regularly. So that trio worked great, in my opinion.
the other thing too is Milik was stretching Atalanta and keeping them honest at the back to those penetrating runs. That frees up just that little bit more space for Di Maria when he drops in, Fagioli when he presses forward. It just keeps them honest, and it just continues to kind of give that pushback to that line.
And that's the
Milik,
type of
that was
work.
a much better showing from Milik than his last outing, and that was good to see. That was a
Yeah,
good
and that
good to see.
was that's one of the things Dushan can learn from him, how to do that, how to spread the play without touching the ball.
Exactly. It's what you do off of the ball that sometimes in certain circumstances can be much more important than what you're doing on it. And yeah, that's where Dushan can definitely learn from him. Milik, must be said, we missed this little tidbit in the news that it appears that Juve is going to finalize that move for the additional 8 million euros. And I don't think anybody should have a problem with that. Let's get to the highlights of this game. I'm going to quickly rip through it. You've got, 5 minutes in, and we're down 1-0, and I'm just shaking my head. Locatelli with a misplaced pass. He kind of had split Di Maria, and Milik was well beyond, but you could see them look at each other while this play is going on because they've intercepted the pass. And Milik's got his arms up, shouting. Di Maria's made a completely different run, and Locatelli's just looking. So a complete miscue. But Atalanta jumps on it. They come right back at us. We're scrambling to try and get our covers and whatnot. And Boga ends up finding Lookman on the right. It seemed like nothing, regardless of a cheap turnover. Still nothing, and still Szczesny has got to make sure that doesn't go in and bail us out. That is an awful goal to concede at the start of a game.
Yeah, like that's the 101 of goalkeeping. When a ball comes straight at you, it's not going past you, no
Yeah,
matter where you stand. It took me like two seconds to realize that has gone in. I thought it went out. I was
I
like,
could
no
not
way.
believe it. Like, I just could not believe it. You know, God bless his heart, Anthony. Uh, God bless his heart, Anthony, on our team here. But he said, look, he goes, 8 yards out from the angle. He's like, that thing had some heat and it was moving. Don't try and sell me on this, Anthony, okay? Because I'm not buying what you're
No,
selling.
no,
That
won't work.
has to be stopped 1000% by Szczesny. A brutal and cheap turnover from us sees us 1-0 down, but ultimately, Szczesny, that's a pretty easy one for us to bail us out on, okay? So, you know,
Nevertheless, shake it off and okay, a mistake. Like, don't let it ruin your entire game. Need to,
yeah,
step
yeah.
up, especially when you're one of the older guys in the team.
Now, we carry on and we actually push back. We come back forward. A little bit of a collision at the top of the area as Milik makes a run, and he's hot about getting that call. This is the first one where the arm kind of gets extended by the defender put out there, but the legs entangle. We've seen this one called at times. Your opinion, Omer, on that particular one, and do you think should have been a PK?
I think it should have been, but just based on the foul, the reason I think that they didn't call the referee to check it is maybe because it's been like on the line of the box. Maybe they
Yeah.
looked at it and thought it was outside, so they can't intervene. But a foul, definitely a foul.
Yeah, all I could say is that on live view, it looked like Milik went down very easy. When you start looking at some of the other angles and they show you those replays, the arm of that defender does come in front of him. There is the tug, but the legs that encounter, you've got to be in control by rule. But I think you're right. I think it might have been for them too close on the line or whatnot, and maybe didn't call him to look at it. Is what it is.
Yeah,
We carry
because
on.
it's a weird case to not go check if it's in the
Yeah.
area.
Yeah. I mean, at least take a look. But
Yeah.
regardless, 23rd minute, Locatelli steps up. This was something I noticed from him yesterday. Very, very willing, very, very active, and getting forward, getting in and around the area. Drives forward. He ends up getting challenged and losing it. However, it falls at Fagioli's feet. Di Maria also pouncing. So we had two players pouncing on this loose ball. What do? Force a foul. Put teams under. Get the ball into the area. Ask questions. Foul. Funny enough, even though the ref was standing directly in front of it, doesn't call it. It gets reviewed. This one does get reviewed, and he barely looks at this thing, which I found hilarious considering he was staring right at the play when it was live, that he didn't call it. But anyways, he goes over to the screen, looks at it immediately. There's no touch on the ball. It's all leg that he gets, and we get the PK. Di Maria steps up, and he makes no mistake. So we're equal, okay? And we're playing good. After that goal we conceded, we were playing well. We started to find our rhythm. We started to push Atalanta back. The 34th minute, this is just absolutely beautiful, everybody. This goal from start to finish is really something to appreciate, okay? Di Maria with the back end. What do we talk about? We talked about Fagioli knowing when and when to attack that space, watching his forwards, watching what he needs to do. He attacks the space that's given, that's presented. Milik is occupying defenders out on the left side. Di Maria, a back heel, completely catching Joachim Mele off guard and flat-footed. Fagioli has the step on his man, leads his man. Fagioli, one quick look into the area, and he drops this thing. It's curling away from Demiral, who's running back. Demiral had to be substituted in as Palomino had an injury. So curling away from Demiral. He can't clear it. It falls pretty much money on the spot in front of Milik on his run. This finish he made it look so easy, and it is such a difficult finish. I can't stress that enough. And this was an unbelievable goal.
Go to your local training ground and try hitting that ball with your weak foot.
Yeah.
And putting it on goal. That's tremendous finishing. And finally, goal that came out of a team play, good team movement were great. Everyone looked up, saw who's running where. Finally, because in the last show I said it's been a while since we've seen a goal that came out of just fluid play and tactical planning. And how good Di Maria is in tight spaces.
Oh yeah. It's that
Amazing.
Goal was just, everything about it was lovely. But that finish, my God, I can't stress that enough. Looks easy. It's his weak foot, but even if you don't factor in his weak foot, hitting the ball right on that bounce, the second it hits that turf, my God, that was incredible. And when you watch it, it's literally the spot he absolutely had to put it short side. There was no room there with where Musso was standing. Unbelievable finish. Fantastic goal. Juve takes the 2-1 lead. We head in to halftime with the 2-1 lead, and I felt really good at halftime, and I loved our response after conceding, and I thought we were playing very, very good ball and moving it well. I thought there was a lot of crucial passes in the attacking third that we were missing that were kind of that last step. And there was some long ball opportunities to really stretch Atalanta where we just couldn't find the weight. But our energy was positive. Everything was positive. I liked it. I was very happy at halftime. Omer, your thoughts at halftime?
Similar, like when we talk about the old Juve, when we say that it's not necessarily beautiful play, but it's effective and grinta and everything. That's what I saw after we considered the goal. It was the question why we can't do that all the time, but they were just everywhere, pushing, drawing fouls, and just being aggressive in taking the ball, not giving Atalanta an inch of space. That's like the type of play we want to do. I don't care about beautiful football. I care about sacrifice and playing up to the level. Atalanta are a great team, and they couldn't cope after that goal. You were on their throats all game.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great way to finish that half and go into the second one. Second one, I was doing the watch along, of course. Thank you to everybody that was with us for the watch along. Those things are amazing and a lot of fun. The everybody felt the same. Good outing in the first half to come away with the 2-1 lead. Maybe hard done by on a couple occasions there with Milik in the area.
1 point. The left side was pretty dead.
The left side was pretty dead, but
we needed that Chiesa there.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that as we get later. Kostic will come up in player performances, I'm sure. But we just wanted that same energy, that same drive, go out and kill the game. Unfortunately for us, it couldn't have gone worse as far as the opposite direction goes because we were completely flat out of the tunnel. I don't know what the hell happened there, but we were asleep at the wheel to start the second half. And in a matter of less than 10 minutes, we have conceded 2. Absolutely brutal start to the second half. 46th minute, Danilo with a very, very bad giveaway. They've end up finding Lookman, who slots it over to Joachim Mele. So not only did we give the turnover up, but we lost our marks on the same play. And Mele is allowed to find space in behind our line. Lookman finds him, and he slots home. So we're level at 2. 6 minutes later, Boga working the left side, gets a cross in, and Sandro, it was like watching day one of defending out there. He was nowhere near challenging Lookman on that one. Nowhere near it. And knew nothing about it. And it's wild to me. Absolutely wild to me. If you're watching what's going on the left side, the immediate threat is a cross. Be ready for a cross. And just get tight to your man and just watch where he's going to go. Lookman starts backing away from the goal line, and Sandro can't even keep up with him. He doesn't even contest him. This is a free header from Lookman when they're in our final third, and you can see that the buildup is he's trying to beat Danilo to get that cross in. And Sandro is knows nothing about this. That was very, very poor defending. Omer?
Yeah, that's the frustrating thing about this game. It didn't feel like we were bad defensively. Mostly we were good. It's just those lapses in concentration, one bad pass, and that's what Atalanta is known for. Our team takes their chances and punish you for mistakes. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. Sandro, I think it's beginning to be a problem. Not Sandro, but even going back to the Napoli game. We considered 3 of the 5 goals from crosses into the area, which weren't marked properly, and guys just got free headers. And we considered more than 1 goal through set pieces this season, corners and stuff.
Yeah.
It's beginning to be an issue. Our marking in crossing is not good. And it's not like we have no short guys there who can't handle. These guys have great head game. It's just positioning, something is off.
And we'll talk about it because, and we're going to get to this. This will be one of the main topics we discuss post the highlight reel and everything. But basically, you've got this defense that up until this week had only allowed 7 goals in the league, and now all of a sudden, it's blown wide open over the past few matches. So something's got to change. What is it, like 8 goals in 2 games or whatever?
9 if you
9,
consider
9 in 3 games.
Monza. Yeah.
Yeah, 9 goals in 3 games if you tie in Monza there. So what's up? Well, we'll tackle that one after. We'll carry on with this one. So we're down 3-2 now, and again, luckily, we claw our way back, and this was great to see as well. Has to be noted, Danilo putting his hand up after the melee goal with his giveaway, and you could see him upset and apologizing to his teammates and taking the brunt of that one. This was good to see because this set piece, we win a set piece again, driving forward, asking questions, win a set piece, a free kick in a good spot. Di Maria looking the whole time like he's going to hit this one, and he just runs over it and taps a little heel pass back, and Danilo slaps this thing into the net on the ground. Absolutely love this, and love the celebration, love the reaction, love everything about it. And the rare instance that you see Max Allegri celebrate a goal, that was actually cool to see. And we talked about how it's symbolic of everything. It's symbolic of the moment. It's symbolic of what Juve faces and everything. And hey, I don't know, man, victim of the circumstances or what, but I'm starting to really push and like root and want to back Max, to be honest. Because like I said, facing that presser during this and being the guy that has to come out there and face the music on behalf of what others have kind of put you in that scenario. And then, of course, just the nonsense, the part of it that is not right. Man, he's just taken so much. I loved seeing that reaction out of him. And I hope seeing your coach do that, it fuels everybody up, and it should just fuel everybody up. And I've always said, like, I need to see Max get into it way more. And even just the game, how we approached that game, how we played that game, it was a little bit different than what we're used to out of Max. Does this team take that next step? Does this team start to say, it's time to fucking push back, it's time to fight, it's time to go all out? Do the circumstances, does the 15-point deduction turn this team into somebody that starts playing on the throttle?
Yeah, I gotta say, credit where it's due. When you have that sort of thing happen to your team, not most managers will just bounce the minute it happens. Capello, you can say whatever you want about him and how great he was as a manager. The second Calciopoli happened, he was the first out the door. Didn't even consider helping. And sometimes you need someone like Max who can take everything in and say the right things and try to motivate the team, and not someone who will start blaming everything and everyone and create more unuseless noise. And so might got a bit lucky there to have Max around, because if he's gone after that 15 points deduction, that's it. The team is broken. No manager would pick them up.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see. It's a question we obviously don't have the answer to, and time will tell if all of a sudden this team, with the pressure that's on them and needing to get points, if we start getting after it way more and playing a little more risky. You could see in the play yesterday alone, a lot more opportunities that some risky passes were being taken and trying to break through and whatnot. But again, hey, I still remain strong. Okay. Wait until where the dust settles at the end of the season, make all decisions then or whatnot. But I'm just saying it's nice to see Max get into it like that, especially with everything that's going on. All right. Everybody can remain whatever you think about Max's ball. Everybody knows where I stand about Max's ball. But listen, here's the thing. What if all of a sudden it changes? And what if all of a sudden a guy like Pogba comes back and we play with that attitude of yesterday where we get after it, and all of a sudden these passes that some of these guys can't hit are being hit? And what if all of a sudden we start punishing teams? We scored
Yeah.
3 goals yesterday, okay, and didn't win the game. That's strange for a Juventus side to
That's
score
fair.
3 goals and not win the game. Why did we not win? Because we got punished on 2 brutal opportunities that shouldn't have even come because they were cheap turnovers on our own. But again, hey,
For a neutral fan, that was a great football match.
it was a good watch, even for
Yeah.
like a Juve fan. Like, I mean, it was good to see the team get after and go there. But again, I'm not saying everybody's got to chill out here in the chat because, like, he will never change and all that. Hey, never say never. I do believe he won't ever change. But what if, what I'm asking is, what if with a little bit of a quality upgrade, okay, and all of a sudden our game breakers and our impact guys start being the difference and start pushing, and all of a sudden we do start to get a little more, because the balance all shifted. The balance all shifted with the midfield. As soon as we discovered, and even though it came through injury, whatnot, as soon as we discovered Rabiot, Locatelli, Fagioli, things started to change. You start adding in pieces, Chiesa, Di Maria, Pogba's going to be the thing. How do you get Pogba in there? But that's another discussion. But you just never know, okay? You never know. Now, the rest of the second half, look, Szczesny, as far as Atalanta goes, had to make one stop on a long drive that he handled comfortably. For us, Miretti had the game on his foot. Okay, that is the one that we're all going to be fired up about, and we're all talked. I was pretty upset, and Miretti comes into question. We're going to wrap up the game here. Ends 3-3 draw. We're going to talk. We've given our thoughts on the game overall and everything. Miretti and this chance, this opportunity. Omer, share your thoughts on Miretti, this opportunity, his performances, and then I'm going to share mine.
Yeah, I won't judge him too harshly. I mean, that should go in, and probably a more experienced player will put that in the net. It's fair to say that Darun got his foot to it before Miretti. But when you enter to a game of that intensity and that speed, even to senior players like even Chiesa had a bit of trouble, setting into the rhythm of the game. Not to mention Quadrado. So from a 19-year-old, yeah, it should have buried it, but I won't get too harsh on him. It can happen. He's not a striker who learned how to take those chances. Bad miss could be better, but it will get better. He's 19. He's not the final product. You'll see more from him, and he might have a bit of lost a bit of confidence recently because he gets more criticism, and the games get tougher. The situation gets tougher every day that goes by. It happens.
Yeah.
Frustrating, but it happens.
He's now that particular opportunity, okay, not realizing how much time you have with a player on his back and whatnot. De Bruyne was right behind him. That's happened to a lot of players. Miretti's not the first player that's been caught by not understanding the time that he has and whatnot. He still manages to get the shot off, but it was so nonchalant, and it was nowhere near where he needed to put that thing. Ideally, hindsight 2020, take a stab at it with your off foot away from the defender that's on your shoulder and hit the damn thing. Don't worry about this finesse crap and whatnot. Hit the damn thing. You've got a lot of net to shoot at from there. You got to find a way to find that thing in the back of the net. Now, as far as Miretti in general, I think everybody needs to relax, especially yesterday. Just so easy to just destroy somebody so quickly. He is 19 years old. All right. If we think back to the summer, I was caught off guard with how well he played coming out of the gate at the start of the season. And I said, maybe I got things wrong with Miretti, because in the summer, my tune, and if you go back to all those shows, you'd see it. I said, Fagioli should not be the one loaned out when it was rumored that Miretti was going to be the one staying. I said Fagioli should probably be the one to stay because he's had his minutes at Cremonese and whatnot and gotten a lot of minutes and evolved his game further, fine-tuned. Miretti should probably be the one out on loan and get his go, and we should probably keep Rovella as well. Now, flash forward, here we are. Everyone's got to remember, he's 19 years old. He is 19 years old. Mistakes are going to happen. He's making naive mistakes that youngsters make. Some of his mistakes, I've seen experienced vets make too. But the thing with Miretti is too, he is being played as that trequartista that maybe, just maybe, isn't for him. And if we think back to when he was really good, putting in really good performances, he was at the Mezzala role and not as this trequartista. So maybe, just maybe, that plays a part of it too. What do I think should happen? Miretti, I think, is definitely ahead of Juve next gen, but I think he's just not quite there for us. He's okay in rotation and whatnot, but I would prefer he goes out on loan, sees starting minutes at a team that can hopefully evolve him. And it has to be a good choice, a right choice, because he's only 19. He's got time on his side, like Max Allegri said in the post-match presser. He's got time on his side. I would like to see Miretti on loan, I think, and Rovella return if I'm talking about next season. I don't think this is a knock on Miretti whatsoever, but I don't think it would do him right. He's ahead of Juve next gen, but maybe just not quite ready for the pressure. And if you look at him, man, the contributions, they're not falling for him for us. And I think the longer it goes, the more damaging it is to him. So people might ask the question, isn't it damaging to him to go from Juve and then all of a sudden get a loan out to another club to get minutes? I think it's more damaging if we keep going in this and he keeps not being able to find contributions and these things keep creeping up. The pressure, I think, is a bit much. Head over, get your minutes in you, get your wits about you, learn the pace and the speed and the tempo at which you have to play in this league, get your bearings under you, and then come back. That's how I feel. Omer, what do you think?
Yeah, it might happen. Remember, we have both Hans Nicolosi Caviglia and Ranocchia out on loan, so Miretti might be the next in line. It's great. I see a lot of comparisons here to Pedri and stuff. Guys, this is just, it's not the same player. He's not as talented as Pedri. I think Pedri is now playing his third season in, senior football. He plays for the national team. It's a completely different story. And it's not a case to say, yeah, that guy was good at that age, so that guy is not good enough. Everyone
But the
has
other
their
thing too
timeline.
is here, like what they're basically trying to get at is, because Dells is essentially saying you either have it or you don't, in his opinion. So he's like, you either have it or you don't. Well, that's not necessarily the case. If you look at how many players started to excel in their careers at later years.
Luca Toni, at the age of 24, was still riding the bus with his shoes on his shoulder to training in Serie C or something. And he went to Fiorentina at 25, 26, then to Bayern. Like, some careers pick up later with the right system, the right team, places where you get more minutes. Having said that, I wouldn't have played Miretti in that game. He wouldn't have been my substitution. I think that's where we got it wrong. If we were 3-1 up, it's a different story. I think the choice to play him was the wrong one. But failed to settle into the game. It's fine. It happens. I would have been a lot more angry if Keane or Milik missed that chance.
Yeah.
Because they're strikers. They should bury that.
That's one they got to find. Again, it comes down to players. Also, if you want to tack in some of these other guys, they're playing in their natural position. Pedri's playing in their natural position, but also the grooming. This is also like an unfamiliar thing for Italian sides and whatnot with these young talents and whatnot, and getting in there. We already know we're way behind the 8 ball when it comes to our young talents and getting them in there, getting their minutes. We can't absolutely destroy and roast these kids when they're getting their chances because then it's not going to help us overall try and catch up to the game when we're trying to do that. These guys, like even Roberto Mancini, when he comes out and he says that in Italy they're not getting their minutes. The Jude Bellinghams, wherever they go and whatnot, they get their minutes immediately. When things like this happen, we can't explode and still ask for the young guys to get minutes. You got to take these growing pains. You got to take them. You got to take these lumps. It is what it is. It sucks. He had the game on his foot. He didn't find it. You know what? Overall, he came into the game as a sub too. Omer says he wouldn't have subbed him in. And for me, the substitution that wasn't quite right is the fact that you took Fagioli out. The Fagioli one. So if Cuadrado's going to come in, that's fine. But McKennie doesn't need to stay in that game. And this is not a knock to McKennie and what he did afterwards once Cuadrado came on. But I don't take Fagioli out of that game. Not when he's having the game he's having, and he's already got an assist under his name. He was part of that drive into the area that got the PK called. I don't take him out of that game. But again,
I would have probably played Paredes and pushed Lucatelli up to the Mezzala role and have him closer to goal.
Yeah. Now, the comparisons to Fagioli and Miretti, again, like using Fagioli to shit on Miretti for me doesn't necessarily work. Again, Fagioli's a couple years older, okay? Fagioli has also put in his time. Again, also most recently with Cremonese. That is a big difference to Juve Next Gen Ball where Miretti came directly from. This is why I say calm down, get this kid some minutes, starting minutes, somewhere with less pressure, less intensity, just to build him up to the speed and tempo. You bring him back in a couple years, maybe even 1 year, depending how he does. And then if it still doesn't work out, you could still sell him and you still make money. And then it's going to get investigated. We move on to the next one. So let's get to performances in general from players. We're going to get your man of the match, and then we're going to talk more. We talked about Miretti. We still want to get into Locatelli, Danilo, but man of the match, Omer, live chat. Who is your man of the match yesterday?
Yeah, I'll go with all the fans on this one. Fagioli takes it. Had a great game, especially for a youngster. Was certainly the difference maker. Second place, I'd give probably to Di Maria, and with a goal and assist, was a constant thorn in Atalanta's ass. And subbed on, okay, but Fagioli man of the match.
Yeah.
Number 3, Archie's Lucatelli probably worked his ass off.
We're going to get to old Locatelli. A lot of shouts for Di Maria and Fagioli. I would probably also throw in Milik in there because he had a hell of a showing for himself. Especially the last time we saw him, really, again, that's how it's been, and that's how it can be with everybody at times. You're public enemy number 1, and then all of a sudden you're a hero. Hell of a game from Milik. Di Maria was great. He was great. Every time he touched the ball, you didn't know what was going to go down. Locatelli, I thought, put in a hell of a shift, and he continues to get hate. My man of the match, it's got to go to Fagioli, okay? So I give it to Fagioli, but I think Di Maria and Milik, for me, honorable mentions. Locatelli and Storm the Barn. Luca's already jumping in there. Fire away, everybody. You don't have to wait for Storm the Barn. You can fire away as you wish.
I'll even throw out Bremer. I don't think the goals were at his fault. Maybe the second one, because he was the one who disrupted the offside. But it happens when someone gives away the ball and cuts you off guard. Yeah. So look at Bremer. He just didn't put a foot wrong all game.
And he needed to after his showing against Napoli. This was, I said it in the Match Day Live. I said it on the watch along. My eyes are going to be on Bremer and his reaction. And he was good. He was good. That's what I expected. Locatelli now. Locatelli put in one hell of a shift. He continues to get hate. I still see people coming at me with this flop talk. next to Locatelli. Omar, your thoughts on Manuel Locatelli, and is he a flop?
No. First of all, no, he's not a flop. Look, I like him. I like what he offers. He reminds me some of those guys I used to love, and the way they played. It's not necessarily flashy or anything, but he gives 150% every match, whether it goes right or wrong. It feels like he's one of our leaders in some sort of way, the guy who marshals, because you don't have like a key figure in midfield. So I think it has to be him. Out of everyone, he seems like the one who has his spot guaranteed as long as he's healthy. He's playing that CDM role. I don't know. It just I find it hard to hate guys who are playing well and want to be here, love the club, came here in spite of everything. I have a warm spot for them. I might be wrong, and I get why people don't like him. Maybe they don't feel as related as I feel.
Yeah.
But I have nothing against him. He had some poor showings. Okay, he won't be 100% perfect all game, every game.
Locatelli for me is look, I think it just comes down to expectations because everything I hear from people is just, oh, I expected so much more. I expected so much more. I expected so much more. I think people put everything down to contributions, assists, goals, and whatnot, but that's never been Locatelli's thing. And I mean, yesterday, I saw Locatelli that hasn't been that active in and around the area like ever since he's come to Juventus. And that's why I say, are we changing things up a bit? The interchange between Rabiot, Locatelli, and Fagioli was on point yesterday. And the way they rotated in, at times it was Rabiot up forward attacking, at times it was Fagioli up there, and at times Locatelli was in there. Sometimes it was all three of them. And it was wild to me because I'm like, holy Christ, like we've let all three of our midfielders get up that high. The team went after it. But Locatelli pushing forward in there, and he's not afraid to shoot. He had one, he tried to slice there, he sliced it too much, but way more driven and involved. But defensively, Locatelli is untouchable in our midfield. The work that he does defensively has a massive impact on this team, and very few are talking about it, in my opinion. Okay,
Yeah, I
so
think a lot are trying to compare him to what Pirlo did, but it's a completely different role. Defensively, Pirlo wasn't anything flashy. The guys around him worked their asses off, and that's type of a different midfield where Locatelli does most of the
yeah,
work, and the other guys are more in charge of distributing and coming out of
yeah.
press and stuff.
It's true because during Pirlo's time, he had two unbelievable box to boxes that did a lot of work, and Pirlo was the controller after. He would pull the strings. But Locatelli's defensive work has a massive impact. And when he leaves games, you notice it. You notice it big time. That has just as much of an impact on this team as goals and assists do. Um, People just thinking he needs to have more influence on games. And I'm like, well, the influence comes through when you notice when he leaves. And more often than not, when he leaves the pitch, we've caught ourselves saying it all the time, Omar. You notice when Loca leaves.
Yeah, and I can maybe allude to something similar was probably Lichtsteiner. When Lichtsteiner didn't play or left the match, you instantly felt something is different. So maybe not a midfielder, but some guys just affect the match in a different way. And a lot of things are lacking. And I might give the example of England, where England had this amazing Lampard and Gerrard and Scholes, but none of them was willing to do that defensive work. They weren't that type of players, and England failed to play like an Owen Hargreaves, who did exactly what Locatelli is doing for Bayern and for Man United. So you need that guy. You need someone like that in the team. If you don't have true box to box midfielders who do that job, then it's up to the defensive midfielder to do it.
Yeah. I'm not on this train right now on Locatelli. There are many out there that are, but again, I see what happens in the midfield when he's not in there. And for that alone, that's a big impact. So it doesn't show up on stat sheets or anything like that, but I'm telling you, he does a big role and a hell of a lot of work for us
Yeah,
in terms of the defensive output.
yeah. I just other
And he
players
is that. He
don't
is a
like.
defensive midfielder. Like that
Yeah,
is Locatelli.
yeah, and it's a solo played in a two-man pivot, and you need someone who enjoys doing the dirty work. That's what I get from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like most players don't like it. Pogba doesn't like the defending part of being a midfielder. Mandzukic did a lot of dirty work, and if you admire that and you need that, then Locatelli offers it to
Yeah.
Juventus at the moment.
No problems with Locatelli. Not a flop, everybody. Cool the Jets. Medetti, cool the Jets. Locatelli, cool the Jets. Danilo. Danilo continues to come up. So obviously he makes the error yesterday, causes the Atalanta's equalizing goal at 2-2. And then obviously he gets the equalizer for us on the set piece job with Di Maria, and then touches the crest. Great celebration, a lot of passion shown. And afterwards, his words, I loved it. He says, yeah, I made a mistake that cost us and put my team and all my teammates in a difficult scenario. And he's like, I want to commend them for fighting through and battling through regardless. And dude, this it's crazy to me. Like he's taking accountability. That is what leadership is.
Which
He's taking
Sandro and Chesney didn't do for
exactly.
all of the
He,
goals.
he he's taking accountability. He's taking the fault for why his team was put under and why they had to fight back. Said nothing about. Could have obviously said something about all three of the goals being awful and involve other guys, but he didn't. He left it at his goal, his error. Continuing to say, which a lot of people are, that he is a problem for Juventus. I am not with that whatsoever. And what I will say is this, okay? Who outside of him is a leader on this team? Who outside of him would people say this is captain material right now at this moment?
I would point him out, Locatelli,
And
possibly.
Locatelli's getting a lot of people saying he is not captain material already.
He's not at the age of being a captain yet, but I do think he has the mentality. Bonucci, I don't consider captain material. I'm sorry. And Perrin has that character. I will give Perrin the armband in certain matches, which I won't give it to Chesney. I don't think he's as good at commanding and driving forward and putting passion into the team.
Yeah.
Other than that, Chiesa
Chiesa
maybe.
is arguably our best player right now, but captain, I don't think so yet. Locatelli, not yet. Look, we want to point at problems and whatnot. Danilo is not one. Consistency, people want to talk about always making mistakes. Well, that's because I think a lot of people blow up a lot of minor mistakes that happen across all games and everything. And like he's constantly making mistakes. That is literally like, try and find me another goal that he allowed this season, like off a direct error of his, like that one. It's hard to. He has been super consistent, extremely consistent. Not only that, but he's actually taking accountability. All right. He's actually taking
And
accountability. He's taking ownership. And the other thing is, why you might want to consider Bonucci as captain. The thing is, Bonucci's been pulled out of big games because his form was absolutely brutal. And then to factor onto it, he can't stay fit like Danilo anymore. Danilo's fitness is next level.
and you gotta be more lenient with defenders because if he doesn't do that mistake and Juve win the match, we're talking about him as man of the match. So defenders, they can be perfect for 90 minutes, one mistake, and bam, they ruin the game, and they're the flop of the match.
The other
And
thing,
it flips for strikers.
here's the big thing. Leadership and whatever, and what Juve needs right now, because everybody says he's not world class and Juve needs world class players. Right now, at this moment in time, one of the biggest traits Juve needs is guys that have that dogfight in them. And Danilo has that. You see that. He has that dogfight in him. We need to stop with this Danilo hate. We have to stop with it. I'm not buying into it. Omar, are you buying into it?
No, I don't get why. Someone who sacrifices everything and says the right things all the time, takes responsibility. He was the first one to stand in front of the crowd and apologize when times were rough at the beginning of the season. He doesn't shy away from critique or anything. He's just the type of guy you want in there. If you don't want that guy just because he make a mistake here and there, or is not as a big name as Cancelo or anything, then you don't deserve this guy, and you'll get your Cancelo who will leave after one season.
Yeah, the thing is, again, I think it's just all relative to the time. Right now, the time. Juve needs guys that are going to be here for the cause and have that
Exactly.
fight in. So right now, don't make problems that aren't there. Don't create problems that aren't there. We need more guys that are going to be there and for the fight, especially when you see what's going to happen in this summer and who's going to be going. Like I've been saying over the past week, character guys. Juve always picked up character guys. Danilo, for me, is a flashback to some of those character guys we used to have. You used to look at a Juventus roster, you can spot the leaders instantly. And there was a lot of guys you could have chose for leaders of that team because they all did it in their own way, but they were all strong characters. Danilo is a strong character. Look at the first season when he came to Juve and look what he's turned it into now. That's huge. That's a character guy. Juve needs to hit on their pickups. They need to bring in more character guys that are going to be here for the fight and willing to do whatever it takes to succeed. This Juventus team over years started to sign guys that thought that they were just coming to Juventus and they would just win and that winning was just going to happen. No, you have to work your ass for it and you have to earn it. We need to instill that fight, that willingness to do everything that it takes to get that done. We
And
need the character guys.
we talked about it, I think, a couple of days ago in one of the podcasts about the management changing direction and who they're going to purchase and looking for those young guys. And I said I want those guys with a strong mentality and characteristics. And you give credit to Napoli. Giovanni Di Lorenzo is one hell of a signing because
Yep.
he's exactly that guy for them.
Yep.
Exactly, and he proved it for Italy in the Euros when they won.
He goes
And
about his business quietly, gets his job done, does it at a very, very efficient rate. That's it. Down to fight,
those are the
down to
guys
work.
we need.
Yeah. Yeah. We need character guys. So right now, I don't see Danilo as a problem for Juventus. All right. No problem. We are going to talk briefly about some of the words, some of the statement I made that kind of rivals are laughing at me for and kind of coming at me. But I'll tell you, I stand behind it. And Gasparini, after this match, with everything going on, and asked about the point deduction to Juventus and everything, and he simply said, it takes away credibility from the league. And it's exactly what I was saying. When I said freeze the league, Ant clipped it, put it out there on Twitter, whatnot. I knew I was getting ready, prepared for what was going to come. And some of the Napoli fans for sure came at me. And I said, look, it is what it is. Take Juventus out of the equation. I don't care what you have. But there's another 5 teams that are going to be investigated. You're going to start taking more points away from your championship. From a league perspective, a league that's already miles behind, it looks bad. Gasparini literally coming out in the presser. It takes away credibility from the championship when you deduct points and change rankings while it is still being played. Thank you, Gasparini, for actually being able to see something for what it is. Omer, your thoughts on this whole thing, and my suggestion that Serie A needs to get their head out of their ass and actually deal with this immediately rather than delaying until April and have it all sorted and cleaned up quickly and immediately.
Yeah, Gasparini is a winner, no doubt about it. Why is a winner? Because some believe that being the best means beating the best and not deducting points from them and then winning the league on technicalities that have nothing to do with the play style. Some fans or managers or players would prefer the lucky draw in a Champions League qualifiers and stuff to make it all the way to the final by having bad teams play against them or not up to their level. And some would want to beat all the big guns and make something to be proud of. We've beat this team and that team and that team, and we won it in the end. How brilliant is that? How much more fun it is to say that. And then saying, yeah, we had Benfica and Club Brugge, and we beat this one and made it to the final. And Gasparini is one of those guys. He wants to win against the best. He takes pride in it, and I can honestly respect that more than anything else. So Napoli beat all the best teams, have a competition that is worthy of the way you're playing, and I would clap when you win the Scudetto because you deserved it, not because the other teams are being trialed for God knows what.
Yeah. Now, we'll get into this. So, the whole thing, and nobody needs to worry about me and how I conduct myself with the Napoli fans on social media because I simply say, look, it comes down to this. I don't expect you guys to not want to have to even care about an asterisk next to your championships because yeah, you take them whenever the hell you can get them when you barely get them. So it is what it is. They keep going back. Oh, cope with the 5-1. I said, hey, nice trophy. Have you got the tattoo yet? Because they make a meal out of that thing. For us, it's match week 18. A loss, big deal. We move on. That's the difference. Now, let's get to we got a question in here from Bikram G. Also, why investigator has asked 6 months extension to investigate Osimhen deal because they know they might lose points and possible Scudetto. There's a lot of theories going on right now, and even with the Osimhen deal, they're saying that like the punishment could be minor in the fact that what they're really trying to pin on Juventus is that there's this circle of teams that Juventus was working with in order to cook the books or correct them. The whole thing with this, and here's the funny thing. Luca here saying rival coaches and lawyers that are taking Juve's side makes me think they know deep down their club is not innocent. Listen, it's not even about being innocent or guilty when there are no actual rigid rules and regulations on player value. Inflating a value, even if you say, oh yeah, you know what, we shouldn't do this, but we're going to do like those wiretaps. Yeah, we shouldn't be, he's probably not that price, but we'll do this and do that and make it work or whatever. That is just going against, like, almost to say it's going against the spirit of the Mercado, but it's not going against set in place rules. Value, their value, what they deem like market value, is common sense. Well, so what are you going to do? Are you going to go back forever and deal with every single transfer that's been made to see if it's lining up with your common sense judgment of what a player's value is? The hilarious part about it is you're writing your books only to spend on another inflated player. For Christ's sake, everybody's screaming bloody murder now years later after we sold Odero, who was highly sought after as a goalkeeper at the time, for 20 million euros. For fuck's sakes, we spent money, 40 million, on Kulishevsky because he scored like 8 goals. What the hell are we talking about here? It's all relative. It's all the same circle of teams. We've been spending money on inflated players from all teams. Like it is what it is. The whole premise of everything is ridiculous. Where Juventus made a crucial and critical error is the fact that they found 32 million euros, which wasn't on the books. That is where they failed miserably. Those responsible need to face the penalties, and Juventus does as well. However, the penalty for that, again, by precedent, is not sporting, especially because Italy, I can't stress this enough, does not follow FFP rules. Okay? They do not. So in UEFA, yeah, that could come back to bite you. But in Italy, no. Fines and bans for those involved based on their own friggin' precedent. Okay?
Yeah, and FFP does nothing to, like, the rule is backwards. The team that makes the most money can spend the most money. So you're kind of burying the small teams who can't spend big to improve themselves. And the big teams get trialed for this type of stuff and have multiple eyes on them all the time because they can spend more. So it basically does nothing to balance the league and help the smaller teams get better. And
Yeah.
Juve were a big team that are now affected by FFP, and Man City was trialed for it, and Paris Saint-Germain were trialed for it, and Chelsea and Atletico Madrid, and it only happens to bigger teams. So it's nothing special towards us. It's just shitty rule.
Yeah. Now, moving on from that, the defense. We have to talk about the defense. What's wrong? What's wrong with all of a sudden us that 7 goals leading up to this past week, and now in 3 games we've allowed 9? Omer, is there something wrong at the back? Are we just making some errors here and there? Are you concerned about it? Do we need to change anything at the back? What are your thoughts with all of a sudden 9 goals allowed in 3 games?
There's definitely a problem. Like, something is different, something is not working. Granted, we've played against the top scoring teams in the league, so it would have been tested eventually. We did beat Inter and Lazio, who are still in contention for top four, so it wasn't all against mid-table and lower-table teams. But even against the lower table teams, we had a bit of luck. Like, there were like 2 crossbars against who was that, Cremonese or Udinese? I don't remember. Like, we were a bit lucky in some of those games and could have easily conceded. I think, based on what I saw from Max in the previous 2 games, he's starting to shift to a 4-man back line instead of 3. Something there isn't working properly. Maybe it's the lack of another natural center back, and just playing with 2 fullbacks pays dividends in the end.
Yeah.
But we do have a problem of marking, and this zonal marking thing doesn't work, and we fail to deal with both inside the box.
Yeah.
So something needs to change. In the past 2 games, he did move to a 4-3-3, and we didn't concede while we were in 4-3-3. So maybe it's the way to go, because it also leaves Chiesa out of the starting lineup, and I don't want that.
Yeah. It's tough to really pinpoint. And I mean, even if you look at these past 3 games, and yesterday, for instance, the goals that we allowed directly came from errors, cheap possession, and cheap giveaways. If you look at Napoli was a complete disaster. And Bremer played a game he'll probably never play that bad again in his career. But one of the things that stands out to me, the 3-man back really, really banks on that assistance out of the midfield. They really, really bank on that assistance out of the midfield. And even when we go to the 4-man back line, when you see these shifts in game that happen where all of a sudden it's that 4-man back, still it banks on that midfield. And yesterday our midfield goes forward. They were pushing forward quite a bit. What happens is you're starting to ask more of those guys in much more difficult to defend scenarios where they're on more 1v1s and they're more isolated. And then you start to see us look shaky. So our solidity through that 8-game streak and everything that you were seeing and whatnot, and it was like, it was solid as a unit. But now we're starting to see, like, especially in the past couple, if like we get advanced and that midfield kind of needs them to do their business a little more isolated, then you start to see the weaknesses in, Sandro especially, but then you start to see them look a little bit shaky. So I don't know. There's shouts for going to a 4-3-3, but I'm not 100% sure on it, Omer. And I think Lucas kind of got one of the Storm the Barn questions coming in here with, if we stay with 3-man at the back, does Gatti start over Sandro? Personally prefer 4-3-3 now and would start Gatti beside Bremer. What do you think about this whole thing and making this shift to 4-3-3? And you can address Lucas Storm the Barn question.
I partly agree with Luca because I think Danilo on the left side is not playing to his full potential. Like, he's a different beast on the right, even in a 3-man back or a 4-man back. But it does look better. I mean, Sandro is just blunder after blunder, which really cost us games. So
Yeah.
we need to find a solution there. Hard for me to see Gatti and Bremer playing together in a 2-man defense, because I think once Bonucci is back, he'll get his spot more often than not.
Yeah.
But I do prefer the 4-3-3 with everyone coming back. Our roster plays better to that type of formation than a 3-5-2.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I say it's worth a shot. It's worth a shot. We could see what happens right now. Maybe what was working at the time with the 3-5-2 starting to become a little shaky. You're starting to get some big players back. Give it a go. Give it a go.
It's good to have it in your arsenal. Nothing bad with being able to shift to a 3-5-2. But
Yeah.
we moved to it because we had too many injuries and not enough players to bank on. So now that we do have the players, it might be different, and it might be different for better and not for worse.
Hey, I think there's no harm in trying, basically. There's no harm in trying. Now we have a question. Would Danilo play as a center back or a right back? I'd personally put him on the left side, and I would use Quad as right back. But Quadrado yesterday, when he came in, my word, was that bad. That was awful. His decisions, you've got players pressing in the box. This guy wants to take a rip from the top of the corner of the area when he hasn't played in forever, and he skies it. Probably friggin' domed the guy who's selling beers in the concourse with that shot. What are we doing here? And then it's like, and then when he's 50 yards out on the byline, he decides that's when he wants to put a quick cross in when they're set, and he's like 40 yards out by the side. No, Quad. Like, when we have numbers in there and we're pressing them back, pinning them back, that's when you do it. His 1v1, which was like his claim to fame for all, it's gone. He can't beat some of the softer guys, I would say, that he's facing. He doesn't have it anymore to get by them. So he's got to find contributions now in a different way. He needs to adapt his game because that step is gone and that 1v1 prowess is gone. So he needs to essentially adapt, and he hasn't adapted. So that part really drives me crazy with Quadrado. And yesterday, I think it was on full display. Would you agree with that, Omer?
I told you in the group chat, like, he's been back for 5 minutes and I'm already sick of him. I already want him on the bench. And, we have said it before when he did play, that his defensive contribution is a different story, and he is good on the defensive part. So if we do shift to a 4-man back line, I have no problem with him playing right back. Because there will be some Chiesa or Di Maria ahead of him, which will do most of the heavy lifting in attack. But in the 3-5-2, when he should be the one, helping to create, we saw yesterday how simple it can be when you have 3 guys who work great together and think fast. And Quadrado just slows up the pace, tries a lot on his own. Like you said, he doesn't have the 1v1 anymore, so that's out the window. So what else does he have to offer? Just ridiculous shots from
and it's
possible
coming to
angles.
an end. He's going to be taken off, but it's still frustrating because we're going to need him down the stretch here. I mean, unless we want to stick 3-5-2 and you want to keep playing McKinney out there, then hey, fly at her, but there's some issues there too, so it's tough. Dell's coming in here with Storm the Barn. Is Gatti better than Rugani?
I would say no. He can be because he's still relatively young and he can improve. He still has a lot to learn. With defenders, it's always experience above everything. You can be a phenomenal defender without any physique or speed or nothing like Cannavaro or like Lisandro Martinez does for Man United now. But Rugani at the moment is more experienced and barely any mistakes in the past 2 seasons where he played. And he's fine with being the fourth or fifth CB, so not a lot to complain about, honestly.
Yeah, for me, it's like automatic reaction, overreactionary take would be like, oh no, Rugani sucks, like Gatti's better or whatever. But honest take, Gatti will be better than Rugani. But as of right now, based on last season and his stints when he does get the minutes dating back throughout last season, Rugani's been reliable and he's been safe and just fine to play there. And he looks more comfortable than he ever has playing. So as of right now, Rugani's a bit more reliable than Gatti. But Gatti overall, long term, will be a better defender than Rugani, in my opinion.
You know, you know what comes to mind? Remember that movie with Owen Wilson and don't remember who, when they decide to go celebrate for 7 days and then someone teaches them the medium hot girl goes out with girls who don't look as good as her to make her look better. So, like when Rugani played among Chiellini, Barzali, Bonucci, then yeah, it doesn't look as good. But when he plays with defenders who are not at that level, then he might look better. I know it might be the case. That's where my brain is taken.
Yeah. Now, Dells raises another question. So does Gatti warrant a spot in a Juve squad? Absolutely, because he's an investment. He's looked to the future. So Rugani was a project. Rugani was one that took how long to develop and like into what he is now. We're talking about a guy that's been with Juve for how many years and now finding reliability and whatnot. So to say just because now at this point after all these years, and it's like I said, debatable. It's debatable. Some might say Gatti's already, they feel more comfortable with him than Rugani. I don't think that's the be all and end all to judge if Gatti should be and warrant a spot at Juve, especially not right now with our center backs and whatnot. Like, he's a promising center back. He's 24 years old, and people act like that's like he's towards the end of his career and he's an old man. Like, 24 is young. God damn it. I hope so, based on my age. But yeah, I think he warrants a spot for sure because he's got to be groomed and whatnot and turned into one. It's a source of pride for Juventus to turn these defenders and into these big guys. Hopefully we can do that with Gatti, but he warrants a spot for me for sure. Omer.
Let's not forget that both De Ligt and Demiral had a tough time as well, and they were hyped and bought for ludicrous prices. So just goes to show what I've said before. It's experience. He's more experienced now than he was when we were banking on him to be first CB or first team player. And maybe the way that he doesn't play too many games, so it's hard to pinpoint mistakes. And if he played more, then he'll have more mistakes. But that's true to everyone. Danilo does mistakes because he plays all the time. Can't be perfect all the time. Gatti should definitely stay.
Dude, Omar, all your little lines and all your little oh man, they're great. The Rugani comparison to that girl
at the bar
hangs out with the not so good looking ones to make yourself look better. That is gold. That is gold. Now, oh man, so who in our current midfield trio? We're going to wrap things up on this midfield because this is going to be a big one. Who in our current midfield trio do you think Pogba will replace when he comes back? Fagioli or Rabiot? I think you're muted, Omar.
I don't think it will be either because I think we have millions of games. We'll barely see the same lineup played. I think it's just going to be a rotation between everyone. I don't think it pushes anyone out, to be honest. And it will take time to get back. Look at like Chiesa, he take a 3-4 games until he's able to even start a match. So we'll probably see cameos from the bench more often than not. But let's wait.
I think he's gonna replace Fagioli.
Knowing Max, that's probably the direction.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's gonna be. I think because just knowing Max and whatnot, I bet you it's gonna be Fagioli. Fagioli should not have been subbed for McKennie, and he needed to start in that Napoli game. And moving forward, he needs a strong. This is a tough one too. He's right there, but Rabiot serves a purpose too. But how would everybody feel about a midfield trio of Pogba, Locatelli, and Fagioli? It's different, but it can be doable. It can be doable
Look,
because it
these
can be
guys are
doable
here to
because
stay.
you instead of having two defensive workers and like Rabiot and Locatelli whatnot, and sometimes they pivot up and you push through another one that you get your offense from. Instead, it changes and you become one center defensive midfielder, and you have two that can either offer you that creativity and that vision from both sides. It could definitely work. For me, I think we try it. I think we try. Like, why not? Let's see Pogba, Locatelli, and Fagioli. Real Madrid did it forever with Casemiro being their defensive midfielder, and they were able to create an attack on both flanks through Kroos and Modric. I'm not in no way putting Kroos and Modric with obviously Pogba, Fagioli, and whatnot, but I'm saying that setup can work, and you can take a physical player out like Rabiot, but Allegri likes those types of guys that work and have energy and fitness that can put in those shifts. He likes that. But I think we should see Pogba, Locatelli, Fagioli.
Yeah, and thinking about it going forward, Rabiot is out. Like this could be our midfield for next season. So if Max is staying, why not integrate the three of them more to start building that and start having them work together? Because Rabiot he's gone. I mean, he's doing good, I guess, not great, but he's not here next season. So
Yeah.
why bank on him?
Yeah, we've got last one. If Fagioli keeps performing like this, and again, it'll surely attract big clubs in Europe to snatch him. If an offer of 40 million comes in, do you think Juve will sell or keep him? I would hope that they keep him.
Yeah, I 40 million, definitely. Definitely. And I don't think he'll want to leave that easily either. Like he's a Juve fan from birth, his family is like reached his peak and now he wants to prove himself, and you can definitely see it in the way he plays, especially when he scores goals. He's not going to be someone who leaves easily.
Yeah. I can't see it happening. Not for 40 million and whatnot. And there's a lot going on there too. If we remember the story in the summer and whatnot, and how he pushed and Fagioli pushed for some type of promise for minutes and game time, whatnot, and wanted to stay here and didn't want to go out and whatnot. There's a lot there, and there's a lot of substance to this story. So I don't necessarily know that Fagioli wants to take off and just go away. I think he wants to make it work, and he wants to stay there, and he showed that willingness. So I would very much
and when
hope
you
they
finally
don't accept the offer, and I would like to think that Fagioli wouldn't want to go either.
and when you finally have someone you didn't need to spend money on and is a good player, then why sell him? So we sell him and we have to buy someone else who probably cost more or will be young and a gamble. Just no point in selling him. Definitely not at this point. Maybe in a few years when the
Yeah.
offer grows to 100 million, we can talk
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, everybody seems to be on the same page as far as keeping him. So there you have it. On that note, Forza Juve, Forza Fagioli, who put in a fantastic shift. And yeah, it's I'm looking forward to what Fagioli can do. And I mean, if I look forward to next season, I stand by what we said on this podcast today, and that's I think Moretti should go on a loan, and we should be bringing Rovella back next season. But Rovella, Fagioli, Locatelli, Pogba, if we can keep him healthy and manage his minutes and whatnot, it's not so bad in the middle of the pitch. We've got work to do in the summer everywhere else, though, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, as always, thank you to the live chat. You guys are amazing. If you didn't get to some, don't worry. You'll get a lot of opportunities. Friday, reminder, everybody, Romeo Agresti live. Okay. Hope to see you all there. You guys like the video. Everybody that's new here, subscribe to the channel. If you're a Juve diehard, this is the channel for you. Okay. So make no mistake about it. Smash that subscribe button. Friday, we look forward to Romeo Agresti. It's going to be a big, big show. Okay. Do not forget. And hey, we're going to put the post out at some point today. Start sharing that and let's show Romeo some love and why the AJC Army is the best. Okay. You guys have a great week and whatnot. I'll keep you updated on the daily update videos. And then we'll be back on Sunday for Monza. And we are going to have the match day live. And I will be doing another live watch along. All right. As always, no matter what, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao, and thank you, Omer. Great show.